some other people are enjoying their refreshment. They'll be here in. Before I call upon the distinguished speakers to stage, let me briefly tell you what's happening in MMA next few days so that you don't miss them. There's a nice event happening tomorrow morning at University of Madras. There's the MMA endowment lecture, what we do, and it's a very, very interesting subject. Trade, commerce, administration, and management over the ages. That is from Sangam era to the British. You'll really enjoy. I think the speaker is an outstanding person. Dr. Krishna Swamy is a former member secretary of Higher Education Board, Tamil Nadu. Then on 31st, again, we have a very interesting event, 5th V. Narayanan Endowment Lecture, The Journey of Leadership. We have an outstanding speaker again. Ramesh Srinivasan is a senior partner at McKinsey from USA. Along with them, he'll be leading the conversation. Mr. Atul Vora is again from USA. It's happening in person at MMA Management Center. Then we have a competition for young managers. Then on 7th of Feb, we have an interesting event again. Play to the potential, lead your full life, become best in you. We have Mr. Deepak Jayaraman. He's going to become, he's the author and coach. He's come from Mumbai. We also have Bama Balakrishnan. He's a senior vice president of finance from Sundaram Finance, and Satya Sriram, preventive health consultant, independent consultant. This is a event happening on 7th of Feb. On 12th, again, we have our flagship event, MMA Annual Convention. We have Galaxy of Outstanding Speakers is happening at Hotel Taj Coromandel. We already have our 450 nominations already done. We'll take it. We can go up to 600. So if you're not registered, please do register and join us at Hotel Taj Coromandel, because this is an event which is highly subsidized by MMA. So do come and join, enjoy some of the speakers. I'll go miles to listen to them. You can watch the big list. It's already been displayed on our website. Now on 14th, again, a very interesting event. What does the Trump presidency mean for global affairs and the US, India, and the business? It's a very, very interesting event. We have again an outstanding speaker come from USA. He's on a visit to Chennai. We requested him. He's agreed to speak to us. Gopal Ratnam is a technology and policy writer, editor, Washington District and Columbia, United States. Is very, very outstanding. He's traveled with so many foreign secretaries around 17 countries, and very, very outstanding profile. And he's going to be talking to us. It'll be interesting. We have two special invitees will be joining. Is Air Marshal Matheshwaran. He's the chairman, president of Peninsula Foundation. He's again a thought leader. Along with him is Mr. K. Kumar, retired senior partner from Deloitte. Then on 18th of Feb, again, we have, as usual, Read and Grow, led by Sangeeta Sumesh. Then on 28th of Feb, again, interesting event by Mr. Ganesh Chella, who is the authority on coaching. He's going to be talking to us on coaching your leaders, a roadmap to the organization, where he's going to be doing a demo and how actually things done, stage play, role play, so that you can come. There are a number of other events are happening, including a women convention on 15th of March at MMA Management Center. Now, coming to today's event is when this event is really very delighted to host this event today at MMA. Nari Shakti, Innovation Indian Women take center stage. When Mr. Ganesh Natarajan, Nagapan asked me, so we never say no to Mr. Ganesh Natarajan. He's been well-wisher, known to us for the last so many years, and he's also part of IMA. And this event, we really accepted to host it, and we also requested FICCI Flow to be partner. And Flow is a partner for this event. And we are also having some outstanding speakers who have joined us for this event. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hand together to welcome distinguished speakers for this evening. Let me invite them to come and join me on the stage. Ms. Uma Ganesh, she's author, founder, Global Talent Track TTP Foundation. Then Mr. N Kumar, Chairman, Group Corporate Board, the Sanmar Group. Then we also have Arundhati Bhattacharya, joined us online. She's unable to make it in person. She joined us online from Mumbai. A very warm welcome to you, madam. And Mr. Ganesh Natarajan, author, founder, Fire World and Lighthouse Communities Foundation. Then we also have with us Pooja Sharma Goyal, founder, CEO of Uditi Foundation, and Anushka Ravishankar, co-founder, Duck Bill Books. May I request the district to please take your place on the dais, please. Ladies and gentlemen, a very, very warm round of applause to the district panel this evening. I can assure you, we're going to have a very, very inspiring session this evening. As usual, the format of the session, just for your information, We'll have Mr. Mahalingam to deliver the welcome address. Then our partner for this event, Divya, will be saying opening few another special welcome address from FICCI Flow and opening remarks. Then Ganesh will talk about overview of the book, and followed by Mr. Kumar will give a special address. Then we're going to request our chief guest for this evening, Arundhati Bhattacharya, to launch the book and address the audience. Thereafter, Ganesh will lead the conversation with our special invitees and the author, Pooja, Sharma, Goyal, and Anushka Ravishankar. Mr. Mahalingam is the president of Madras Management Association, also partner director at TSM Group of Companies. We request Mr. Mali to please deliver the formal welcome address. Mr. Mali.
Good evening and a warm welcome to all of you. It's customary to say it's my privilege, pleasure, and all. I must say I'm overwhelmed and very proud to deliver the formal welcome address on this wonderful occasion. With such luminaries on stage and offline, I think both me and MMA are really privileged to welcome all of you to this wonderful session. Welcome the MMA members of MMA, FICCI Flow invitees, and those watching online. This is a wonderful session. We have a packed audience, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of power, especially women power today on this stage. Thank you. Firstly, let me start by welcoming Ms. Arundhati Bhattacharya, former Chairperson, State Bank of India, who's joined us online from Mumbai. Congratulations, madam, on your Padma Shri as well. It's a very proud moment for us. She's been just conferred the Padma Shri a couple of days back, and we are really fortunate to have her. Maybe it's the first address she's doing after being conferred the Padma Shri. Thank you, Mrs. Bhattacharya.
Thank you very much.
Then welcome the author and the star of the evening, Ms. Ganesh. Author and founder, Global Trial and Track Limited. As Group Captain Vijay Kumar said, Mr. Ganesh, Natarajan, and MMA are really, really close to each other. And we owe a lot to you, Mr. Natarajan, Ganesh Natarajan, for what we are today. Thank you so much for Group Captain Vijay Kumar. We all are present for a year or two, but Group Captain Vijay Kumar, he tells me that Mr. Kumar and you are the pillars on which MMA has been built, actually. Thank you so much, sir. Then welcome Mr. N Kumar, Chairman, Group Corporate Board, the Sanmar Group. Mr. Kumar is an icon in corporate circles here and as part of the Sanmar Group, and we all really look up to him for many things in the business community in Chennai. Thank you so much, Mr. Kumar, for being here. Taking the trouble. I understand you have guests at home. We'll sure we won't hold you for too long. Welcome, Ms. Pooja Sharma Goyal, founder, CEO of the Arundhati Foundation. Thank you, madam, for being here. Ms. Anushka Ravishankar, co-founder, Duckbill Books. And Ms. Divya Abhishek, President, Chairperson, FICCI Flow Chennai. Thank you so much. Must tell you, madam, that MMA has collaborated a lot with FICCI Flow, and each of these events have been very well attended. Again, another proof of Nari Shakti. Thank you so much for doing this with us. For the benefit of guests, a little about MMA. Maybe this is a brag part of the event for us. Founded in 1956, 8,000 members, 10 chapters, 14 times running the best management association in the country from the All India Management Association. All thanks to Group Captain Vijay Kumar and his team. And Mr. Kumar was genuinely surprised when he saw this place. I think he's visiting this place, and there's something which is thanks to the efforts of Group Captain Vijay Kumar, and that just in plot also. I think it's really something to be proud of to be in Chennai, in the heart of the city. Thanks, Group Captain, for doing this for MMA. Nari Shakti, all along, women have been the driving force behind many changes in the world. They've been the fulcrum of many things changing, especially in a country like India, where we revere and worship Shakti and gods and goddesses. And we have had women prime ministers, women governors, and women chief justices of high courts, etc. I think we have a tradition of revering and virtually worshipping women. That's at a broad level. But unfortunately, I don't think that translated to either progress for women in terms of education, opportunities, etc. at the ground level. It's really an irony that a country which worships women goddesses doesn't worship the women at their homes. I think initiatives like this, the book, and many things have actually propelled the development of women and brought women to the fore. And I'm sure initiatives like this will. I flipped through this book and I understand it's got a wonderful compendium of articles by economists, sociologists, entrepreneur experts, and all of them chronicling and interpreting the impact on women. Many initiatives have happened. I'm sure this will not only give us wider perspective and throw light on what's happened, but hopefully will inspire all of us to do more in that space, which I think is very, very critical if this growth trajectory that women have taken should continue to greater heights. And I'm sure initiatives like this, organization FICCI Flow, will do more for the progress of women in multiple areas. I think, thank you, Dr. Morgan and Ganesh, for doing this and wonderful initiative. I must mention at MMA, we have been doing our bit. I just confirmed with Vijay Kumar that we do a women managers convention, celebrating women managers. Meera sitting here is the chairperson of the current convention, women entrepreneurs, etc. I understand we have been doing this for 24 years now. This is the 24th year we are doing this. So I think MMA was ahead of the curve in celebrating women success, women entrepreneurs, women and women managers. I think MMA has always had some wonderful women speakers coming and speaking to us and inspiring us. And if you have time, do come in March for the women convention. We'll send you the invite. We have a wonderful range of speakers being there. So on at MMA, we have always celebrated women, and there's yet another occasion to celebrate Nari Shakti. And thanks to all of you, we're going to hear from the best in the country, the best and the brightest thought leaders. All of you will have a great time. I'd like to invite our management committee members or past president, past management committee to this wonderful session. All of you, I'm sure all of us, not all of you, will leave inspired to do more for womankind going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mali. And now it's my privilege to welcome and request Divya Vishek, Chairperson FICCI Flow Chennai. I don't know to really introduce her. She's very, very well known, and our qualification, if I start reading out, it'll take a couple of minutes. So before that, let me welcome Divya to come and deliver our opening remarks on behalf of FICCI Flow.
A very good evening to one and all present here, respected dignitaries on the dais, Mr. K. Mahalingam, President MMA, Chief Guest, Ms. Arundhati Bhattacharya, Mr. N Kumar, Chairman, Sanmar Group, Uma Ganesh, Ganesh Natarajan Sir, Pooja Sharma, Anushka, Meera Nair, Group Captain Vijay Kumar, dignitaries of the dais and dear members. It is my honor and privilege as the Chairperson for Flow Chennai to address all of you in a very befitting conference, Nari Shakti. In fact, the minute I saw the poster, I just asked Vijay Kumar sir if we can collaborate, and within 3 minutes, he added the Flow logo and sent it across. So that is the speed at which he operates, and we're really honored to be part of this wonderful conference. I thought I'd take this opportunity to talk a little bit about FICCI Flow Chennai. We are the largest women's wing in Southeast Asia. We're the women's wing of FICCI, the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industries, which is more than 100 years old and which started under the guise of Mahatma Gandhi. In fact, he presided over our 4th AGM. So Flow has been a very pivotal force in nurturing entrepreneurial spirit, advocating for women's rights and empowering women in leadership role. Flow Chennai is in its 31st year and we have impacted over 350,000 women over this period. We have several milestones. We work with women across 3 levels, the grassroots, mid and the top management. I just wanted to highlight 3 important milestones that has happened this year over the last 6 months. We entered into a landmark partnership with Sipcot Industrial Estate, Government of Tamil Nadu, to set up 22 education-based Montessori creches in Tamil Nadu. The reason for this is we wanted to bridge the gap between the women entering into the workforce. So we felt inducing education-based environments will push them even after having children to get back. This is proposed to impact over 323,000 women. We also work closely with the government where we have been empaneled as mentors for over 80 women entrepreneurs in rural India, and 126 self-help groups. So we take them step by step. If anyone has an idea on how to take it forward, how to, connect them to the industry and resources. We've also released a MSME guide, which has been used widely by entrepreneurs in institutions, colleges, government areas, where we have covered everything an entrepreneur needs, from when you have an idea to how to set up your organization and run it successfully. On the other hand, we also regularly organize programs with leaders in the industries to learn and get inspired from. And I believe this is one such unique program where the very presence of our chief guest today elevates the program, someone who has shattered the glass ceiling. And ma'am, I'm sure there are many people like me here in the audience who you inspire and continue to inspire. So it's a real honor to be in the presence of you in this event. In fact, when I talk about this, I'm reminded of an incident. A book publisher was doing a market survey to understand how books have impacted their life. So he met a very successful woman and he said, Madam, you are very successful. So there might be many reasons to attribute your success. But if you can recommend one book that, truly changed and had an impact on you, please tell us which book that is. That woman didn't even think immediately. She said, it's my checkbook only. So we took that a little bit too seriously. We decided to have someone who was at the helm of SBI and who has had broken many firsts and milestones, first woman chairperson of SBI and several more. Thank you, madam, for being here and joining us today. I'd also like to mention the tremendous support Sanmar Group has given to Flow in terms of pushing our initiatives to rural India. Thank you so much, Kumar sir, for the support and continued inspiration. And thank you to MMA for the opportunity given to us to be here today. Benjamin Franklin said, when you're good to others, you're best to yourselves. So with these ideals in mind, we continue to work hard and ensure we inspire everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Divya. Now, as I mentioned to you, the format of the program just a while ago, before I call upon Uma Ganesh to come and say overview about the book, let me briefly introduce all the speakers for this evening. May I have the AV, please?
Ms. Uma Ganesh, founder of Global Talent Track Ltd and GTT Foundation, has over 3 decades of expertise in skills development, education technology, and entrepreneurial strategy. An MBA from FMS Delhi and PhD from IIT Bombay, Ms. Uma co-founded ventures like Skills Alpha and 5F World, impacting over 1.2 million youth. She is also a columnist and author on digital and skills-related topics. Mr. N Kumar, chairman of the Sanmar Group, is an electronics engineering graduate from Anna University and a past president of CII. Renowned for his expertise in technology, management, and finance, Mr. Kumar actively champions initiatives in health, education, and social welfare. He also serves as the Honorary Consul General of Greece in Chennai. Ms. Arundhati Bhattacharya, former Chairperson of State Bank of India and current Chairperson and CEO of Salesforce India, is a pioneer in banking and technology leadership. The first woman to lead SBI, Ms. Arundhati spearheaded its digital transformation and the seamless merger of 6 associate banks. Recognized globally, Ms. Arundhati has featured in Forbes' Most Powerful Women and Fortune's Top 50 Most Powerful Women in Business. Ms. Anushka Ravishankar, co-founder of Duckbill Books, is a celebrated author known as the Indian Dr. CS for pioneering contemporary nonsense and picture books in India. Ms. Anushka acclaimed works like Tiger on a Tree and Mowing and the Monster have won international recognition, blending humor, realism, and whimsy. Dr. Ganesh Natarajan, founder of 5F World and Lighthouse Communities Foundation, is chairman of Honeywell Automation India and a renowned leader in technology and skills development. An alumnus of IIT Bombay, IIM Mumbai, and Harvard, Dr. Ganesh has led Aptech and Zensar Technologies to global success and served as chairman of NASCO. He is also a board member of Hinduja Global Solutions and Educate Girls. Ms. Pooja Sharma Goyal, founding CEO of the Arundhati Foundation, is a seasoned social impact leader and serial entrepreneur. Co-founder of Avishkar and IntelliTots, Ms. Pooja champions women entrepreneurship and skill development. A recipient of the Women Transforming India Award 2022, she also supports women-led ventures through the CEO Club.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's a big round of applause to distinguished speakers for this evening. And what an outstanding panel. We are indeed blessed to have them this evening. Now it's my privilege to request Uma Ganesh to please share the overview of the book. Mr. Uma Ganesh.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us here this evening. Delighted and privileged to be here. This sort of an opportunity to be part of the proceedings or deliberations that Madras Management Association is been organizing for a while. I'm really happy that today we have an opportunity to be part of these discussions. Also happy to know that FICCI has also come forward to be part of the organization of this event. I'm also very delighted that one of our co-authors, Ms. Arundhati Bhattacharya, she has found time to be part of today's discussions. And let me add my congratulations, my hearty congratulations to her for her being conferred the Padma Shri Award recently. Mr. Kumar has been our very old friend, very young friend, and a mentor, well-wisher. And every time we think about anything to be done with Chennai community or want to do anything new in our life, we always reach out to Mr. Kumar. And I'm so very happy that because of MMA's program today, we have had the opportunity to reconnect with Mr. Kumar after some gap. And also have other friends whom we have not been able to meet very frequently, Anushka, Pooja, and several others who are there in the audience. Thank you, Group Captain, for inviting us. So the book, Nari Shakti. Let me take a few minutes to share with you what is the genesis or what really inspired me and Ganesh to think about writing this book, or rather bringing together ideas around this book and inviting several others who have got very incisive thoughts around the theme of women, their success, their challenges. So the starting point for thinking about this book was the fact that all of us have seen the success stories we have heard about, like it was mentioned by Mr. Mali. You mentioned beautifully about how women have played key roles in leadership already. And we know about their successes. We also know a little bit about their challenges. But primarily from the perspective of the economic potential this country is trying to work towards. Our Prime Minister Modi has been talking about the 5 trillion goal. How do we become that kind of an economy? So that really made us start thinking about, if we have to get to that goal, what are the different pathways that we need to address? In fact, Pune International Center, which is really the, you can say, the host for this book, the think tank that exists in Pune, first came up with this book of pathways to India's progress to get to that goal. And Ganesh was the one of the authors for that book. In fact, some of us contributed to that book. But we felt to be able to think about the role of women towards that goal, we need to think a little bit more deeply. And at the same time, drawing upon my own experience as an entrepreneur, as someone who has worked in the corporate sector for more than 4 decades. And most importantly, in the last decade or so, my work has enabled me to impact or rather try and make some contribution towards transformation and livelihood support and skill development of large number of youth, close to about a lakh of people we impact every year, of whom more than 70% are primarily women. So drawing upon the experiences of what really has been the reason for their own transformation in their lives, why have they come forward from small towns, villages to be part of this workforce? At the same time, the communities that we work with, we still find there are huge gaps, whether it is in terms of education or in terms of livelihood opportunities, and simply the economic freedom, the social contours within which, the cobweb within which they have caught up with, not just in the rural parts of India, but even in the urban parts of the country. So, what are the ways in which some people have managed to come forward, and how do we look at more women to come out of these kind of situations that they have caught up with? And therefore, we felt that in this book, there will be a necessity for us to look at how do we get to that situation where, as the country progresses towards the economic goals of prosperity, what is the role that women can play? And rather than speaking only about a few success stories, get some of the successful women leaders like Arundhati, Bhattacharya, Pooja, and several others who have shared their thoughts through this book. Get them to talk about how do they view the roles of women, and from their perspectives, not only talk about challenges, but talk about what could be the way forward and what do we need to do as a nation, as responsible citizens, and as responsible stakeholders, what can we do differently so that we would see that not only women get transformed, but the society gets transformed, as they say, and the whole nation and at a global level, we are able to make a huge impact. So that was really the background within which this book actually started getting conceptualized. And thanks to PIC's support and our own network and other well-wishers, we managed to reach out to several leaders who have shared their views in this book. So just to share with you a couple of perspectives which could act as a background before we have other speakers talk about. See, when we talk about STEM education today, everybody realizes it's very, very important. And I'm happy to say that almost 42% of the enrollments in STEM education is actually from women. But if you look at the number of women after having come through stiff competition, rigorous learning and training and investment in many cases, only about 28% of them actually join the workforce. And thereafter, if you were to look at particularly IT services industry, where you find that women are significantly more in number as compared to many other industries in the country, even there, although at the entry level, almost 50% in some cases are women, but within 5 years time frame, as you see the number of supervisors in the system, that number dwindles to something like 25%. And over the next few years, by the time you look at the CXOs, there's hardly 1% of the women leaders present in those organizations. So this is something which, I mean, statistics which we need to think about. If this is the status with the segment which is educated, which is privileged, which has had a lot of support from the corporates, from the employers, from their families, yet we find that there is a big drop-off from those opportunities. And we know very little about what happens to those women. And of course, in today's context, we feel very good that a lot of women, apart from men, are also thinking about startups. So when we think about startups, we are very happy to know that India as a nation has got the third largest number of startups in the entire world. But if you look at the number of women who have set up startups, once again, we find only something like 14% are with women startups, and that too only 5% are primarily women-owned startups. So there again, there are many concerns, many challenges they face, and quite a few incubators, academic institutions, government think tank, policy makers, banks, other financial institutions are coming forward to address some of those challenges and help them build a network, create that kind of a support system which will enable them to become successful entrepreneurs. But the success is yet to come, and there is a lot that we need to do there. Lastly, I would like to touch upon women in the communities with whom we have been doing quite a bit of work. And I can tell you that if there is one thing which they lack, because of which they are not able to earn their own livelihood, it is simply because of lack of support system. Nothing else really stops them from being able to do that. Of course, they lack confidence, but that's something that if there is a proper ecosystem created, we find that they are able to rise and shine in no time. Skills they may not possess. Yes, if you provide them with those skills, they are able to rise and shine and make things work for them. Digital literacy, majority of them do not have digital literacy. Majority of them do not have access to mobile phones, etc., etc. But even if these are addressed, ultimately their ability to come forward and sustain their livelihoods and be able to build confidence and capability to independently manage their finances and futures, that is remaining a huge question mark. Let alone going into rural areas of the country. In every city, whether it's Chennai or Mumbai or Pune or any other large city, we find that between 20 large buildings accommodating, let's say, 500,000 people, there are communities residing just next to those buildings, and we are actually dependent upon them. And these are women who just support themselves as maids or lowly paid jobs sometimes, and many times they are unable to do that. And we know all the violence and all other hardships they undergo. So how do we ensure that in this journey of progress, we keep more women in the corporate world, we help more women to become successful entrepreneurs, and very importantly, get those women from the marginalized segments of the society to be able to stand on their own, be able to work from home and be productive and contribute to their families, and also in the context of our own economy. These are some of the questions that we try to address through our own perspectives, as well as from the perspectives of several other contributors to this book. You would get to hear some of those insights and perspectives from some of the authors who are present here today. But for others, request you and welcome you all to read the book and share with us your thoughts and feedback. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam, for sharing the view. The book is available outside. The authors are more than happy to autograph and read the book. Now it's my privilege to request Mr. Kumar to deliver the special address. Mr. Kumar.
Ms. Arundhati Bhattacharya, Mr. Mahalingam, President MMA, Ms. Divya Abhishek, President Flow Chennai, Uma, Ganesh, and the panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm delighted and privileged to be here this evening for many reasons, but I'm trying to find out why I should be here, but that's besides the point, because there's so many experts here. So I'm also waiting like you to listen to the experts here. But also for this launch of this book, Nari Shakti. Let me first congratulate Ms. Arundhati Bhattacharya for receiving the Padma Shri last evening, day before yesterday. Congratulations, ma'am. My first membership of any association was the MMA. It was way back in the 80s. I remember my days of working with Wing Commander Ramudurai then, who just passed away this year. I learned a lot from him and from MMA, and I'm always grateful for that education. I must congratulate Mr. Mahalingam, the Secretariat, for the outstanding work they're doing, and to see such a place. It has always been a dream for MMA, and so my congratulations to Ms. Mahalingam, the previous presidents, and the Secretariat for doing this first. I think it's outstanding. The second reason, as Uma said, Ganesh and Uma, very old friends from the IT fraternity, old or young, we'll decide later. Both are brilliant strategists, and I'm happy they've come together to write many books, but more importantly, this book on Nari Shakti, which is being launched today. As I said, I'm not sure we have so many experts here, but women power is very obvious in India. The president explained this. We've had a lady president now. We've had lady presidents before. We had a very powerful prime minister of this country earlier. And we come from a state where we had a very powerful and a challenging chief minister. All of them are outstanding individuals. So it begs the question, why are we still having this Nari Shakti coming into an area? In addition, my own way, in my family, Nari Shakti is full blossom because the women outnumber all men in our house. In today's age, women are in every type of industry, defense, space, etc. I come from a corporate ground, and though there is a requirement of a woman director in every corporate board, I find that they not only outshine us, but are more adaptable to these type of areas. So I think whether there is a requirement by SEBI, I think women directors are most welcome because they perform outstandingly well. And then we have Ms. Arundhati Bhattacharya. You know, apart from being the first chairman of State Bank of India, she represents the company, which is the raison d'etre of software as a service, so Salesforce.com. And she leads that in India. And therefore, there's nothing more to say in this area because women are capable. But as Uma said, there is the other side of the coin. In a country like India, many rural and I'm surprisingly in many urban areas, women are not given, recognized and given that their due place. I therefore feel the special focus, as the Prime Minister has done, must be required for a lot more time in India. We have a long road ahead in this area, and that's why Nari Shakti is important, and that's why today's book launch is very critical. I thank you once again for inviting me today, but it's a privilege to be here in MMA, sir. And my congratulations to you. My congratulations to Uma and Ganesh for this book. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Sanmar Group is always privileged, a great support of MMA. So many things what we do wouldn't have been possible without the support of Sanmar Group. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And the most awaited moment for this evening, the launch of the book Nari Shakti, Women Take the Center Stage. May I request Dignity please step forward. I request Mali and Devi also to join me on the stage for a picture op, and Madam will join us online from there. Can you step forward? Come. And so that was may I now request Arundhati Bhattacharya, former Chairperson, State Bank of India, Chairman, CEO, to deliver Chief Guest Address. Ms. Arundhati.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And first of all, my grateful thanks to MMA for organizing this function, to Mr. Mahalingam, as well as to Ms. Divya from FICCI Flow. FICCI Flow obviously has been very much part of many, many initiatives in respect of women entrepreneurship and women in business. So thank you very much. Of course, the role of Uma Ganesh and Mr. Ganesh Natarajan, that is undoubted, means they have been really the driving forces behind actually getting this book onto the stand. So my grateful thanks to both of them. Today, when I was asked to deliver this address, the first thing I wanted to say that this book is really, it's really something that is very, very important for people to go through. Because we talk a lot about equality, we talk a lot about Nari Shakti, we talk about India being the land where women have always been revered and they have been worshipped. In fact, when you talk about Nari Shakti, you remember the figure of Shakti. That is, the representation of Durga, Lakshmi, Saraswati. They are all representations of Shakti. And the only sad part is that while, a lot of women have been worshipped through the ages by us, however, the people worshipping them, that the priests, there are hardly any mention of women priests anywhere in our books. Okay. So you are worshipping Nari, but on the other hand, you are worshipping the form of Nari, but on the other hand, you are not allowing the women to be the main worshippers. That role is reserved only for men. In fact, getting women priests to conduct a wedding was something that was totally unheard of. But it's only recently that I've begun to see a few such women taking up these roles, and it gladdens my heart when I see a marriage being performed by a woman priest. So the fact is, we are beginning to break those ceilings. That's a fact. But having said that, I think what I really wanted to talk about today, and what I have talked about in the chapter as well, is the fact that this is not a fight that women or men on their own can fight. This is a fight that needs to be fought by society in entirety, because it is the socio-cultural, makeup that we have. It is the cultures that are very deeply ingrained in all of us that actually determine our outcomes in life. So if you consider the fact that a young girl, when we are thinking about a birthday present to take as a gift for a young girl, the default gift that we think of is, let's take a doll for her or a cookery set. Now, similarly, if you look at the boys, you're thinking of a default birthday gift. The first thought is, let's take him what was called a Meccano set and now probably a Lego block set. Let's take that for him. Now, why is this difference between what you take for girls and what you take for boys? This is something ingrained in us. It's not, our mind automatically goes to it. And even the toys, for that matter, if you ask a person who's assisting you at a toy shop that I have to go to a birthday party for a 6-year-old girl, they'll automatically take you to the doll section. Without a beat, without a second thought, they'll take you there. Similarly, even at home, I remember when we were being brought up, and believe me, I was brought up in a home that was very, very equal in the way it treated both my brother and me and my sister. My parents treated us very equally. But even then, if my father asked for a glass of water, it would be either my sister or me who would be asked on to give it, never my brother. My brother was never called on to give that glass of water. Okay. So, simple things like that, these have got ingrained in the way we behave, in the way we act. Having said that, there are people who are breaking out of it. A lot of people have asked me who my role model is because, I have managed to cling on so long to this corporate sector. And I've often said it's because my mother used to tell me always that you need a career. You just don't need a job. You need an identity that is separate from that of being somebody's daughter, somebody's brother, sister, somebody's wife, somebody's mother. You need an identity of your own. And the day you can develop and establish that identity, thereafter go and have a family, get married, do whatever you need to do. But remember always that you must have an identity of your own. Now, she was an extraordinary woman for her age because she gave me this particular lesson, but very few families really give that lesson to the women. And especially so for people who come from a depressed economic background. Though, frankly speaking, most of them are the ones who actually have to work because, they're very often abandoned, they have to work for a living, they're left with children. So, the society in itself needs to create equity and equality, both. Because unless this is a movement of the society, it is not going to be something that we are going to really, be successful in. For that matter, when I was thinking about what more I should talk about at this talk, I was thinking about, the very many people that I have had working with me, especially in my home. Now, many of these ladies are women. Most of them, however, are abandoned women. And because of that, the state in which they are, because they're abandoned with children, and the amount of work and labor they need to be put through, it is really and truly, society alone that can make them aware at a very early age as to what are the pitfalls that they face as they go ahead in life. We don't make them aware of that. And the end result is that they bear the brunt of having to look after the children, both manage not only their welfare, but also how they bring home the bread, so to speak, and look after the family as well to ensure that people are not going astray, that the children are looked after, and they have an education and they grow up to be something that makes their life, that brings out the potential in them. So my request over here is, and I see that there are a lot of men as well as women in the audience, and that gladdens my heart, because many a times when you are talking about anything to do with women, you'll only find women in the audience, and that's not the fact over here. So I applaud the MMA for having brought together such a diverse audience. But my request only is that, with this book, what we have tried to put out is the fact that we need maybe a silent social revolution, which takes into account the fact that women today are facing these issues, not so much only because of the particular role a man or a woman plays in their particular station in life, but also because of the socio-cultural standards that have been set up and which need to be sort of, changed from the roots. We need to, for instance, in my article, I have covered that as well, that in the Scandinavian countries, for instance, when a couple have a child, it is expected that the father takes as many days off as a mother does. That is the expectation. There is no, choice given to the father about not taking that kind of leave. So thereby, they are setting the expectation that the father is equally responsible for the upbringing of a child. It is not the mother's job alone. So this concept of the primary caregiver, which we have for women, this is so ingrained in the minds, not only of society, but also in the minds of women, that given a choice, they will take the primary caregiver choice and give up their careers, because that is not only the expectation from them, but it is their own expectation of themselves. And that, to change that, is probably the toughest thing. Means you have to get between the ears, you have to get where your brain is, in order to make people believe that should not be the expectation out of them, that everybody is actually responsible for childcare, for bringing up a child, for creating a home, for actually doing all of the work that today women do. In fact, I was very surprised to find about, I think, 4 years back, when the census was there, that the women participation in the labor force was at that point of time showing up as very, very low. In fact, lower than many of the very conservative nations that we have in the Middle East. And that was a bit of a revelation till I understood, and this is probably the cause, I cannot say it is the cause, but the probable cause is that most people in the rural areas, they identify themselves as home workers, even though, or homemakers, even though they may be actually doing most of the planting and the weeding and the looking after of the crops in the fields, as well as doing extra work as part of SHGs or joint liability groups or whatever groups they are in. Because it is a stigma to be identified as somebody working, so they identify themselves as homemakers. And that's why the women participation in our labor force shows up as very, very low. They are not proud of the fact that they are making a livelihood for themselves, or that they are helping with their menfolk, sometimes even standing on their own feet while their menfolk go away to the cities to work in order to do all of this work, which they believe is part of homework itself or housework itself. Or they do not want to declare that they are doing things over and above what they do for the home. So, overall, as I said, the societal expectations is what we need to change. And for that, we need to have very specific steps, not only from the government, but also from private enterprise, also from bodies such as yours, whether it be the industry bodies, whether it be the management bodies, where so many thinkers come together as to how exactly we can take this forward. Because if we don't do that, if the societal expectations, the weight of it continues to weigh down upon us, is very difficult for women not to have so many, the stakes, sort of stacked against them. It is very difficult for women not to fall off the workforce. I remember in the State Bank of India, when I was there, we were recruiting anything between 33 to 37% of our new hires would be women. By the time you came to the senior management level, it would go down to as low as 4%. From 33% to sink to 4%. Imagine the number of people who have fallen off in the way during the entire journey. And even in Salesforce, which, by the way, is far more supportive towards women, even here, that 4% may have become 12%, but it's not more than that. Even here, we have found that it is very, very difficult to keep women in the workforce. There is a tendency for them to fall off because of that expectation of being the primary caregiver, because they take upon themselves the task of ensuring that if there is a crisis at home, they take upon themselves the task of ensuring that that crisis they handle alone, because that is the expectation. The men, on the other hand, right from childhood, they are taught to think that they need to prioritize work over family. That is supposed to be what a man does. A boy is encouraged not to cry in public because that does not show good manly tendencies in him. A boy is encouraged right from the beginning to do things that is outside of the house. So be it the shopping, be it the driving around people, it's a boy's job. It's not so much a woman's job. So we have in our minds bifurcated these jobs into what a man does and what a woman does. And we bring up our children in the same way. If that continues, then I'm sure, even though we may make all the efforts that we can, it will be very difficult to break out of this paradigm. It will be very difficult for us, even with flexible working hours, even with hybrid working places, even with all of this, to retain women in the workforce if we do not make their other burdens lighter. And that lightening of the burden can only happen if we break through these cultural stereotypes, if we ensure that society is alive and awake to the fact that it is important to have women doing as much outside the house as they do inside, and similarly of men doing as much inside the house as they do outside. So unless this balance is created and we do everything in our power possible to bring about this balance in society, it will be really and truly difficult for us to change the situation dramatically from where we are today. Yes, it will happen in bits and pieces, but as anybody can tell you, and probably there's a McKinsey study as well that says then in order to get to gender parity, we will need something like 156 years. Now, who is capable of waiting for 156 years? We don't even know whether the world will be, as we know it, will be around at that point. So we don't have that much time. We need to change now. And to do that, we need to put out a call to society that we need to change our beliefs. We need to change the way we look at things, and we need to think afresh. We need to bring about a balance in everything we do, whether at home or in the workspace. There has to be balanced representation, because that is what we all are striving for. Even the concept of nirvana as we know it, moksha as we know it, it's all about balance. It's all about neither feeling grief nor happiness. It's all about balance. And that balance between the genders, if we are not able to perpetuate it, not able to really get to it, we will not be able to release the potential of society, the potential of our country. We will not be able to get there. So this is merely a request and a call to all of y'all that we need to work unitedly towards this. And this book probably is just a small beginning to sort of generate ideas in people's minds, to ignite that spark, which we hope will help in furthering this change of thought, this revolution, so to speak, which will bring about far more gender parity, far more of equality and equity. So with that, thank you very, very much for having me. I'm sorry I'm not there in person. I would have loved to have been there, but thank you for this opportunity for having given me that opportunity to address all.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam, for your inspiring address. We still fondly remember you were the jury when we for the MMA Business Leadership Award, and I had the opportunity of meeting you. Thank you so much. I know you are about to leave because you got another prior engagement, and since you are not able to come here in person, we would like to present a digital memento for you, so that next time you would like to may have the digital memento on screen, please. MMA does a lot of CSR work with a number of schools. So what we are going to do, we are going to give on your behalf, buy books and give it to a lot of poor children at the school. That's what.
Lovely. That's really lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So much.
Something went wrong. Please try again later.
Mr. Ganesh Natarajan to take the panel discussion, take it forward. Mr. Ganesh.
Thank you very much, Vijay. Mr. Kumar, thank you so much for coming, and all the very best to you. Thank you. So let me tell you what we'll do in the next half an hour, just in case you thought you could sit quietly and look at your WhatsApp. Okay, we're gonna make it interactive. I want to have a conversation with all of you. So anybody who has a point or a question, do feel free to come up with it as we go through this process. And in case you don't have questions, I might point and say, Chandu, will you ask the question, etc. So putting him on the spot. So please ensure that you make it engaging. I just want to start from where Arundhati actually left, which is this whole issue of how long will it take us to get parity? And listening to her 156 years, the next Mahakumbh will come in probably 144. So we will better make sure we get full parity, if not women's superiority before that. I think that's important. I'd first of all like to thank you very much, Vijay, because whenever I give him an idea of saying, why don't we do this discussion? The question is never why, but when. So I think this is absolutely amazing. And throughout my 40-year career in corporate sector, I've always looked at the Madras Management Association as the absolute beacon of excellence in everything to do with management thought, no question. And having continued to serve on the National Council of the All India Management Association, I think we're very proud of the role that MMA plays. Similarly, very proud of what FICCI Flow does. In fact, in Pune, some 2 years back, I was threatened that they would make me an honorary woman of FICCI Flow. So I just escaped that one because I've done a lot of work with FICCI Flow, both in Delhi, Calcutta, and of course in Pune, where I live. So it's absolutely amazing the kind of work you're doing. And I'm sure you'll continue to inspire young and old women all over the country, because that is what we really need. But just to touch on the point that I think Arundhati was mentioning, this whole issue of how do we kind of typify women? And I'll give you the example of our own daughter. Okay, she's now a cancer scientist in Sloan Kettering Hospital in New York. And I remember when she was getting married, she married an English boy they both met in Cambridge in UK. And the first discussion was, how would the marriage be conducted? Now, one concession she made to me, because proud Indian father, is that, look, you do the wedding as grandly as you want, in whatever style you want, in whichever city you want. Of course, we chose Jaipur. But where we got stuck was, how should the wedding be conducted? And logically, I mean, all of us are familiar with the traditional religious customs that go into weddings. But she was very clear that, look, if you look at the history of India, as per the Vedic rites, there was never a mention of God. It was more in terms of responsibilities. There was no concept of this thing that we call the Kanyadan. She said, I would never want my father to give me away. What does give me away mean? So we had these fundamental arguments. And of course, like all Tamil families, we had a nice family Vadyar who came to our house. He listened to this discourse by my daughter and said, this one is not for me. I mean, I'm still your priest, but not this one. So we were actually at our wits' end saying, well, who's going to conduct this wedding in the exact method that she wants, with complete equality of the genders, etc., etc. And we found this amazing group of priests called Gyan Prabodhini. I don't know if any of you have heard of them. Brilliant women priests in Pune. And the two women priests actually came to Jaipur and conducted the function. And my 89-year-old uncle was there. And first he was like, no, these women priests are going to conduct your daughter's wedding. I said, yes, yes. He says, I'm going to sit next to you and watch and make sure they make no mistakes. I said, sure. And at the end of it, he gave us all a certificate, saying these people were really fantastic. I learned so much more today in this wedding than I learned in maybe, attending 50 weddings a year across. So it's actually interesting to find that revelation. So when we started putting the authors together for this book, and Uma and I actually did a lot of research with members of the Pune International Center and people we know, etc., like Pooja, for instance. And we said, let's get a mix of people with various thoughts in the book. And the first one we chose was a woman priest. Okay, there is a lady called Ika Chaturvedi Banerjee who's written the first chapter of this book. Ika, by the way, was the CEO of the Future Group. So she's not like, she grew up as a priest. But through sheer interest in mythology and sheer interest in what she do, in fact, I was just talking to her last week. She just come back from Varanasi after conducting a full wedding. And I was asking her, how do you find the time to do it, juggling? She said, this is my passion. That really bringing the best of thinking on gender equality, etc., to even weddings in this country. So I was reminded of my daughter's wedding, as I said, in 2013. So things are really changing for the better. So if I give you a quick tour of what we have done in this book, it's actually in 3 parts. If you read the book, it'll be continuous, but I'm giving you the thinking. One is Ika. As I said, she's really talked about right from the 3 Shaktis that we talked about to mythology through the ages and how have women been both placed on a pedestal, at the same time, sometimes put in their place. So I think it's important to differentiate what's good about and what's bad, even about mythology. And she's kind of done that extremely well. Then, of course, we had quite a few economists. I mean, we got the 2 best economists we know. Ajit Ranade, who was the Vice Chancellor of the Gokhale Institute of Finance. He's been the Principal Economic Advisor to the Aditya Birla Group and so many others. And Ijaz Ghani, who was the Principal Economist for developing economies in the World Bank. And they wrote the 2nd chapter on, how does the economic construct of equality of women really come through? And then, of course, we got our gurus of the Pune International Center, both Padma Vibhushans, Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar, one of India's foremost scientific administrators, and Dr. Vijay Kelkar, who, of course, was the chairman of the Finance Commission and brought in from a scientific background to be part of the finance ministry, and the Kelkar committees are very well known for the very revolutionary policies they came forward. And these 2 gentlemen are in Pune and they run the Pune International Center. So we got them to write about it. And then we got the chambers of commerce to add their own thoughts on what are being done for women, etc., etc. Arundhati, of course, led the thinking on how corporate sector has both dealt with women and how women have dealt with the corporate sector. I joined the board of State Bank of India 2 years after Arundhati was chairman, so I did not have the privilege of working with her. But even today, if you go to State Bank, people remember some policies, including something as elementary as in State Bank of India, once you become a chief general manager, everybody starts wearing a suit. So I think sometimes I used to joke with them that even they probably go to sleep in their suits as well. Everybody has this chief general manager upwards, everybody is wearing a suit. And Arundhati, I believe, and I don't know this, but I mean, she's one of those legends. She came in and said that, look, why is the temperature of the boardroom in State Bank of India always at 20 to 21? Because all the men are wearing suits. So for a woman who's wearing a sari and doesn't want to wear a sweater, she said, look, the temperature will now be maintained at 24, which, by the way, is a good thing for the country because we all waste too much time on excessive air conditioning of hotel rooms, etc., etc. But something as trivial as that. To many of the policies she kind of enacted to make sure that people who join as probationary officers can stay on. And some of the points she made were absolutely stunning. Equality, for instance. Okay, this is again something we see in our daughter's family because it's completely equal. Bringing up their son, managing the housework, doing the laundry. There is nothing that is not shared by my son-in-law Hugh and my daughter Karuna, because both of them are extremely busy. My son-in-law is the chief data scientist of MasterCard in New York. And both of them have extremely successful careers. So there's no excuse for saying, look, I'll support you because I don't have enough to do. But I think that is really what makes things happen. And we got a couple of other very bright corporate success stories. Sushma Rajagopalan, who grew up right here in Gopalpuram and was now living in Philadelphia in the US, about her own career as being the CEO of 3 successive companies, 2 in the US and then 1 in India and now back in the US. We have an amazing woman called Nikki Barua. Nikki is actually a young Assamese woman who went to the US nearly 12 years ago, started working there, married another Mexican woman. Okay, they have a wonderful marriage in New York. And these two are actually building an entity which works with women all over the world. It's called Beyond Barriers. That how can women destroy perceived barriers, as Arundhati said, in their own mind, as well as in other people's minds and behavior around them, and really shatter those glass ceilings. So I think there are a lot of corporate stories we've come up with. But something I'm personally very passionate about is the entrepreneurs we feature in the book. Because there are so many women entrepreneurs who have been extremely successful, and we have actually 3 of them right here. So I will take this opportunity to ask them about their journeys. But entrepreneurial women have actually broken every barrier and been extremely successful. So let me start with Pooja. Pooja, tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey, and then we will talk about what you're doing today.
Thank you, Ganesh. Thank you so much for inviting me here. It's such a privilege. So I started my journey as an engineer, worked in the Bay Area for many years with Adobe, and then did 3 startups at different stages of life. The first startup was in the Bay Area, an enterprise software company for which we raised a lot of money, and it went under in the big meltdown of 2001. The second was in India, in a company called IntelliTots in early years education and care. And that company we built with my batchmate from IIT Delhi over 9 years. That company got acquired by Clay. And the third company is called Avishkar. It is a platform to help children learn robotics, AI, and coding. We set up about 2,500 labs in schools in India and about 15 other countries. And as now in hindsight, when I think about the entrepreneurial journey, I feel it's like playing a game. And when you're playing a game, it is important to know what you're playing and, more importantly, why you're playing it. Somehow the entrepreneurial journey has also become synonymous with fundraising and high growth venture capital funding, and that's kind of considered the only way to build a business. And when I think about my 3 companies, I feel like all of them were at different stages of life, and it meant that they were structured very differently. So the first one, we raised a lot of funding, and it was like a rocket ship. The second one, I had 2 children at that time. We just moved back to India. My children were 1 and 3 years old, and I knew what it meant to take money from an investor. So I said, look, the biggest thing I need right now is flexibility, and therefore we will not take any money. We build it sustainably, profitably. We had positive PAT and EBITDA by the end of it, and we were able to sell it. But during those 9 years, I almost did not identify myself as an entrepreneur. It just felt like you are not, because you've not raised the funding and you've not done the kind of the regular path that you associate entrepreneurship with. So I think the important thing is to know why you are building a company and when, and that determines the kind of company you are building, the pace at which you are building, and whether you raise funding for it or not. As far as being a woman is concerned, for a large part of my career, I was pretty much gender blind, where I kind of did not even occur in my mind that I was a woman entrepreneur. But I think in the last decade, as I saw my 2 daughters growing up, and while mentoring a lot of other entrepreneurs and business leaders, I began to see that there were these systemic barriers that women entrepreneurs were really struggling with, whether it was access to networks, access to capital, and even expectations of themselves and others' expectations of them, just like Arundhati mentioned today. We, on a daily basis, have to question some of those expectations. So you will come across a lot of women entrepreneurs who will say, look, I'm okay keeping it small because I have so much going on. There will be women entrepreneurs who are they are revenue positive, they are EBITDA positive, growing rapidly, but will say, no, I don't think we are ready for high growth at this stage or raising funding. So I think the mindset is a big barrier, along with a lot of other systemic barriers like funding, access to capital, networks, and also skills in many cases around financial management skills.
Thanks, Pooja. Pooja also runs a very interesting company called Udayti, which we'll talk about in the second part of this conversation. But let me shift to you, Anushka. So I know that you are now a very famous name in children's books, but where did it start and what is your journey?
Right. Thank you so much for inviting me. And also thank you for introducing me as a nonsense pioneer in India, because then you won't expect too much sense from me. So I started off actually as in software, but at some point I decided that what I wanted to do was, I realized that there weren't enough books for children written by Indian authors. And children were all, like, we all grew up reading books from the West. And there was definitely a gap there. So, I mean, I didn't think of starting a company then, but I started writing books for children. And I started working in publishing. I was working with Tara Publishing here, and then went on to work in Scholastic in Gurgaon. And as we were working there, we realized that, the trouble with big corporate publishing houses is that, they're only looking at the bottom line, right? So Scholastic, for instance, had a lot of books coming in from America, mostly books that, they didn't want there. So they were dumping them in India. And also they didn't have the kind of books they wanted to do with the kind of books that would sell. Unfortunately, the parents in India want activity books and books, educational books. And we really felt that we needed books. That kind of book doesn't encourage children to want to read. So we wanted to, we'd keep talking about this, my colleague and I. She was the publishing director and I was an editor there. And we used to keep talking about it while we were at Scholastic, that, wish we could do really good, fun books for children. Because the books that used to sell well were either mythology and stuff like that, because everybody wants their children to learn Indian culture. Or activity books, because everybody thinks that, children need to be dumped with knowledge all the time. So there was nothing that was just fun for them to read. So at some point later, many years later, we both found ourselves at a point, we were both in the same place, and we both found ourselves at a point where we were, wondering what to do next. So we thought this was the right time, and that's how we started Duckbill. And we had some basic things, like we didn't do books for really small children because there were a lot of publishers doing that. In fact, Chennai is the place where 3 of the best independent children's publishers for smaller, they do mostly picture books and stuff. They're in Chennai, and they're all owned by women, by the way. They're all started by women. That's beside the point. The point is that we didn't want to do the same thing again. So we decided we do older books, and we would not do mythology. We would not do folk tales because the market was flooded with them. So basically what we did was that we found a gap. We weren't thinking of it in terms of the market, honestly. We both come from the editorial writing kind of side of things. So we weren't thinking in terms of market and things like that. We were thinking in terms of what do the children need, right? What do we want children to read? So we started, so that's where the idea of starting the publishing house came from. Not at all from a commercial perspective. If you want to make money, children's publishing is not what you do, that's for sure. So then when we started Duckbill, initially it was a part of a bigger publishing house, but later on we bought our shares and we went independent. It was a very small, very lean company, but we used to do, we were very happy with the kind of books we did. And if I may be a little immodest here, I think it has really changed it has really been it's changed the way children's publishing is done in India, because we started doing genre books, and we found new authors. So it was a very exciting time, but then GST happened. Honestly, GST is what led to the thing that, because what happens is books are not books don't come under GST, but all the other things that all the other vendors do. So our prices went up. We couldn't take the input, whatever the return that you get from the GST. And so it became very difficult to sustain. So when we were offered, we were very unhappy, to be honest, that we had to sell. But when we were offered, we got a really good offer from Penguin. We decided to go for it. Also because they agreed to keep the imprint, and my colleague continues to run it. So see, for us, it didn't come so much as we really, as she said, we didn't think of ourselves as entrepreneurs. We thought of ourselves as writers, editors who wanted good books out there. So that's where we came from. And so for us, we're just happy that the books are still being done by Penguin and with the same kind of same kind of vision. So that was my entrepreneurial journey. I continue to write books for children, but that's an entirely different line of things.
So Uma, let me ask you a question. Well, already questions from the audience. Well, thank you very much for that. And you've nicely distributed 2 questions each to each of the speakers. So we'll take that as it comes. But just I want to Uma, paraphrase this by talking about your own journey. I mean, Uma, as you heard in the biodata, was the CEO of ZTV's education business, then became the Chief Corporate Development Officer of HSBC globally for their what they call their outsourcing business called GR Global Resourcing. And then she decided to give it all up and start a company in Pune called Global Talent Track. And GGT is actually one of those entrepreneurial dream stories, because started off, then within 2 years raised money from 2 companies. There was a company called Intel Capital and Helion Ventures. After some time, raised more money from Cisco Ventures or Cisco Capital, and finally bought them out. And quite recently, about 6 months back, raised money from a private equity venture called SMCV and has listed on the Bombay Stock Exchange 1 month back. So it is one of those interesting stories of going through 3 rounds of funding and finally listing on the Bombay Stock Exchange. It is almost like a dream for everybody. So in this journey, and I know you've had 2 CEOs, but you worked very closely with them. The question that Rahul from Alwarpet is asking is, what are the most impactful ways for women to support each other in entrepreneurship? Today, you're doing a lot of work also in women's entrepreneurship and GDD Foundation. And how do you ensure that the women that work with you are also becoming leaders, have their own networks and mentorships and contribute? And how does mentorship contribute to this?
Okay, thank you for asking that question. So this whole journey of wanting to be an entrepreneur for me was wanting to do something different from what I was very happy doing for the first 25 odd years of my life. And there came a time when I felt that when I was the CEO for ZTV, Z Education, we're doing a lot of things on TV, off TV, in the field, etc. But I just felt that I needed some kind of a channel for my personal intellectual stimulation. And that's when went and signed up for, as an external student, IIT Bombay accepted us as PhD students. I motivated Ganesh also to sign up for the PhD program. And so, there were these standard programs which you have to do as part of the prerequisites, which we somehow managed to finish. And then came the tougher part, which is to research, to create your own hypothesis, and to be able to create a new body of knowledge. And that meant a lot of time to be spent. And my guide was very clear. One day I received a call from him saying, look, you're going to be stuck off your roles if I don't see you in the campus at least once a week. And then tell me what is the progress you're making. Well, that is how I used to deal with my people, but nobody in the last at least 10 years of my life had told me that this is what expected of me. So that led to a lot of soul searching. And I told one fine day I visited him and I met with him and I realized that he was really serious. And that was quite an affront to me as an individual about who I am. And somebody mentioned a little while ago about my personal identity. So I was having this dilemma. And then one fine day, I just told Mr. Subhashchandra, I'm moving on. And what are you going to do next? I'm just going to do my studies. I'm going to go back to this IIT Bombay, which has given me this opportunity. I want to finish my PhD. So he was surprised. Everybody was surprised. My family was surprised. Ganesh was also surprised. But I said, this is what I want to do. So once I did that PhD program, I really, really enjoyed that whole process. It really gave me a lot of scope to think about who I am as an individual and what is it that I really want to do for the rest of my life. I realized that it was not the power, it was not the power of network, it's not the ability to make money, which were really motivating for me, but it is the ability to make a difference in some way to lives of people. And something that I was familiar with in terms of how the youth of the country, they could be molded and given new direction. That's a path that I realized I wanted to get into. And while we start the journey, I realized very soon that it's just not me who is passionate about it and is going to make things happen. You require a team, you require commitment, and you require a similar passion. And fortunately, managed to bring those teams together. Yes, there were some people who have stayed on for many years, and some people found the journey. After some time, they moved on from that journey to start their own enterprise or go work somewhere else. But what is truly heartening is that in this journey of last more than a decade, we have had the opportunity to build leaders of tomorrow and who have not only for ourselves, but for the country. And that's the way I look at it. And so I'm really thrilled and delighted to let you know that one such leader from our organization is very much present here. She joined us as a trainer, and today she is the leader, Kanchana. If you can just put up your hand, please. Yeah, she is one of our leaders. She's handling the entire South operations, and she is responsible for the income generation and the numbers that we deliver year on year to the tune of 25% of what we do in the country. She takes care of. So there are many such leaders we have been able to build along the way. And it's not only in the context of corporate leadership, but when I look at our own ecosystem, where women are not able to earn even the money that they earn, the meager amount they earn, they are not able to have the opportunity to spend the way they want, and is something that their husbands, other members, the male members of the family, take it away from them. And therefore, we need, like Arundhati said, we just need not only women leaders, but we need male leaders also who are sensitive about the change that is required to be brought about in the community. And again, I'm delighted to find that we have many male leaders who think alike and who feel committed towards this kind of a cause, which is what we are trying to do through our foundation now. And so it's all about finding people who are passionate, willing to learn, and also feeling joyful about their success and being able to create that magic together. That is what has been the reason for my happiness in the last decade.
Thanks, Uma. That's very, very useful. And I'm going to switch back to Pooja, and because Pooja is now working in this entity called Udayati, which is actually doing great work on policy. So I'm going to ask her to talk a little bit about what she's doing and answer two very interesting questions around policy that have come. Pooja.
So I'll go back to where Arundhati ended, which is it will take us 134 years to close the gender gap. That's internationally, we've talked about it. For India, we don't have that much time. We've been talking about the demographic dividend that we have, and that's a big advantage for us as a country. We want to become this $30 trillion economy by 2047. But this demographic dividend will not last forever. It is a 20-year, 2-decade thing that if we do not tap into it, we could be trapped in a middle income country trap. And it's very hard to get out from there. And a large part of this demographic dividend is actually gender dividend. As Uma mentioned, when you look at the STEM graduates in the country, 42% are STEM graduates. the data that just came out a few months ago, 51% of undergraduate enrollments in science is women. 52% of employable workforce in India is women. So we are sitting on this huge reservoir of talent that is willing and able to contribute to our economic growth. But because of challenges on the demand side, we are not able to take advantage of that. So, mindsets and norms are one issue, and I'll get to that. There are some questions here. But there are some challenges on the demand side that we need to address, which is around hiring, retention, advancement, return to work, and infrastructure. In fact, Chennai, Tamil Nadu is one of the states really leading it here. 42% of the women in manufacturing in India are in Tamil Nadu. 90% of workforce in electronics manufacturing is women in Tamil Nadu. Why is that? Because Tamil Nadu has been able to create structural mechanisms and the enabling infrastructure to make it happen. So there are working women's hostels, and that we are trying to copy that in other states as well. Because in the budget this year, there was allocation for working women's hostels across India. Tamil Nadu has a great model already. You have here something called the Working Women's Hostel Urban Corporation. And so the structure exists, it has been done, it needs to be replicated across the country. So one whole kind of policy push is around enabling infrastructure. When we look at women's employment, and Uma, Ganesh, you work so much in that area, you would see that there is the big challenge when it comes to women's employment is either the jobs have to go where the women are. Because, a man can go on a bike 30 kilometers to his job. For a woman, that radius is 1 kilometer, right? So either the job has to go to the woman, or if the woman comes to the job, then we need to provide safe accommodation, safe and affordable mobility, childcare services. And so there is a lot of work to be done as a country on the infrastructure, which the government is very aware. We are working with the Ministry of WCD on the allocation of this of the budget with the state governments around the infrastructure. The second point that, and it is not still a problem solved. The second point I want to make is, I've come to believe that there is a monetary threshold at which patriarchy can be smashed. So what I've heard over and over and over again is, when a woman starts working, there is a lot of pushback. Who is going to now get water? So the monetary cost of a woman stepping out of a house, or a girl, 18-year-old girl stepping out of the house to work, is much higher than that for a man. So if you give a woman 15,000 rupees a month, the mother or the mother-in-law at home is going to say, why are you doing this? Who will not take care of the siblings? Who's going to teach them? So the tuition costs, getting water from somewhere, cooking, taking care of older parents, grandparents, the cost is very high. When a boy is going out for 15,000 rupees a month, the family isn't taken. Having said that, if a woman stays in the job, in the career 1 or 2 years, then the trajectory just takes off and she grows much faster. So there is this problem of these first 1 or 2 years that we need to take care of. So anywhere where organizations have been able to retain women, especially at this strata, the salary structure, it has to be, they have to make more than 25,000 rupees a month. so that they can send some money back home. When money starts to come into the home, then families say, "Acha, ठीक है, तुम करो, मैं देख लूंगी बच्चों को. I will take care of the kids," right? So you begin to see the shift happen even at home when you begin to earn beyond a certain level. So I really think that there is an honor income trade-off. You reach a certain level of income, and then you can break that norm. And the last point, the last point I will make here is, despite that, in urban areas, highly professionally qualified women, they step out of the workforce, right? We know so many of them, and Arundhati touched upon it, कि हम लोग सब कुछ करते हैं. We will take in 50% of the women. By the time we reach senior management, we hit 4%, 5%, right? And that has to do with, Indra Nui once said, our biological clock and career clock is at odds with each other. There is that decade when you are doing your caregiving, taking care of children, you want to be there for expectations that we have. But just like to Ganesh's point, ki temperature in the room is 21 degrees, and only when a woman comes and asks and says, why can't it be 24 degrees? These workplaces are designed for men by men. So our notion of careers is a ladder, and if you take a break, then you are penalized significantly for it. And women on an average take a lot more breaks than men. So why can't we actually create return to work pathways for women? Now we know of so many women who they don't lose their mind because they have been out for 5 years. And it is not as if, you can just enter, but it will be a very fast ramp up if you are able to create a structure for return to work. And I think as a society, we have still not created those structural mechanisms to enable discovery of women who are wanting to return to work.
Absolutely. There are so many more rich questions here that I absolutely don't have time. But if you want to ask a question to any one of our panelists, feel free to catch them after it's over. So Vijay, I'll just take 2 more minutes to summarize. Somebody asked me a question saying, so what can men do about all this? I mean, a lot of these questions have been answered by Arundhati, just now by Pooja. So just to give you one anecdotal example, I took over this company called Zensar in Pune. And at that time, we were a typical organization. We had hired 42% women at the entry level. And if you went to middle management, it's down to 18%. At top management, we were down to 1. Only the company secretary was a woman. And we had 12 men in senior management. And I remember getting a bunch of very bright young women together and saying, guys, you solve this problem. So they set up a group called Women for Excellence. And this was run by a very young South Indian woman called Pramila. And Pramila ran it with passion. I mean, to the extent that when I left, or when I retired from Zensar in 2016, 15 years later, out of 17 people in senior management, 14 were women and 3 were men. To the extent that the men started coming to us and say, can we please start a Men for Excellence group? Because we're feeling very threatened. So the point I think Pooja made extremely well is that we have to design for equity. ICICI, the good old, the band of women who are so famous, from Lalita Gupte to Chanda Kochar to Shikha Sharma to Renuka Ramnath and so many others, they created workspaces supported by Mr. K.V. Kamath, who was very visionary male leader at that time, to make this happen. I took a lot of inspiration from Lalita Gupte, who now lives in Pune, and we kind of co-created these structures. So if we are genuine about our intent, and we act as per that intent, I'm sure that can happen. And as Arundhati rightly said, the problem lies as much in the mind of women as it does in men. So we have to collaborate to see that, look, we can make this an equitable workplace. So hopefully this last 1.5 hours has inspired any of you to go out and make it happen, both men and women. We would have served our purpose. And with that, thank you very much to this wonderful panel. And over to you, back to you, Vijay.
Thank you, sir. Over 800 people are watching it online. Thank you. So many questions. And yes, most of the answers are available in the book. I think you can buy it online as well as here. The book is available here. And may I request Mali to please step forward, and Mira can join me. Sundaram can join me on stage. We are going to give you more books to read. It's published by MMA. You will like this book, actually. Yes, go ahead. I'm going to
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
have to struggle for the rights of men. Women literally took center stage today. That was the idea. Indian. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. Really, thank you. Right. Thanks so much. Brilliant. Yeah, Vijay Kumar. Yeah. Good talk to be with. Talks online. That's why you join. By the way. Thanks so much.